Good morning, everybody.
Wait, okay, there you go.
Did everyone have a chance to review the minutes? I motion to approve the minutes.
So moved. Second, PP Corp.
All right, great. And now we're going to move on to reviewing the pay equity policy. Am I going to talk about it or?
No.
Okay.
We wouldn't do that to you.
All right.
Anna, are you still there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, do you want to talk about the pay equity policy?
Yeah, of course. So, County Executive Fellow has been exploring this idea since early this year. I think before COVID, we had a meeting about it, several meetings about it. The Erie County IDA has a policy in place whereby they ask businesses that apply for incentives through their they have somewhat of a different model than we do, but it's essentially the same economic development entity. Businesses that approach Erie County applying for benefits must certify that they are operating in compliance with state and federal pay equity laws. In the state of New York, we have somewhat more stringent pay equity laws on the books than many other states, as it pertains to how you pay people for equal pay for equal work, and essentially how we would audit businesses to ensure that they're in compliance. We would adopt a similar practice that is implemented in Erie County, whereby we would randomly select one business for approximately 1 month out of the year, every year, so 12 businesses per year, and we would have them fill out a form asking them to certify that they're paying people the same salary or the same wage for the same job. There's a local coalition in Rochester, the Pay Equity Coalition, that has been advocating for this, and in tandem with the IDA, IDC, implementing, adopting this policy, the county executive signed an executive order mandating that businesses who wish to do business with the county in procurement, et cetera, also adopt the same certification. And with that, I'll take any questions.
So when this gets monitored, Anna, and folks are not in compliance, and they have received funding from us, that funding is automatically revoked?
It's subject to revocation, and that's up to us whether we want to move ahead with clawing back the incentive, or if we want to give the business an opportunity to get into compliance. It's up to, well, and when I say it's up to us, it's up to the board.
Rachel, this is Ella. I have some questions about like the mechanics of the audit process. We're bankers. We don't, we certainly don't have the experience to do this kind of audit of payroll records and payroll information. So how do you propose that the audit will be conducted? Would it be done, who would do that, I guess, is my question.
Was that directed at, this is Rachel, was that directed at me or at Anna?
I think, well, either one of you. I thought, Rachel, maybe you would have more input into it.
Sure, so we do a similar audit process, for the IDA. We audit jobs, for every project, and certainly that board, similarly, that board doesn't have, certain expertise. What we would do is the audit performance would be done by staff who is trained to perform the audit. And then the committee and the full board would review recommendations from staff on next steps regarding non-compliant businesses. So it would not be a function that we would ask the board to perform, but rather the board to review the findings of staff audits with staff's accompanying recommendation.
You're talking about MCIDC staff.
Yes.
So this is a little bit, obviously it's more complex than just looking and seeing whether local labor is being used or, number of jobs. There's a lot of, I know it's a really kind of a difficult issue to determine whether there's been pay inequity. And so I'm just wondering, is there the opportunity to retain outside counsel to assist with that?
I think that we, this obviously, we're not asking for approval of this either from this committee or from the full board. This is the introduction of it. And one thing that we did talk about is an outside consultant like we use for local labor. Erie County uses their EO office.
And we've been in contact with them.
And Lydia has done some legwork, and maybe want to share some of the information you have from talking to your contacts in Erie County.
Yes, so we have reached out to Erie County and have a contact at the IDA that we're going to speak to. So we've made some inroads with Erie County in terms of preliminary conversations, but we would surely fully understand how they're doing it. So they are doing it essentially in-house at this point. They're the IDA in Erie County, which really is an umbrella organization, contracts with the county to perform these audits. And we have been in contact with the department that does that. So I expect we'll be able to set up a meeting soon to really learn about the nuts and bolts of how it performs. They're a little bit behind us in terms of getting back to the office, et cetera. So.
Yeah, and I'm in favor of this. I think it's a noble effort, but I just think it will be a difficult. I think it will be a more difficult exercise, like the mechanics of it will be, and we as the board members, the way this is drafted right now, it says we are responsible for implementing this and reviewing it, and so we're potentially, we have liability, and if a company is, if we make an allegation that a company is not complying with these laws, I would imagine they're not going to take that lightly. And so I just want to make sure that we all understand, and I appreciate the fact that you said, I thought this was being presented to us for approval. So I understand that this might change or it might be modified somewhat, but.
No, definitely not looking for approval, looking for feedback and comments, and want to give, based upon past learning and reflection, we know that the board needs more time to consider proposals. So we're trying to operate with present the policy. If it takes a couple months to come to what's our final policy, then that's fine. That's what we anticipate. A 2 to maybe even 3 month policy. I know, or time period. I know that Anna can speak to the county executive's timing. and, when his anticipated announcement is on pay equity, we would certainly not get ahead of that. We would follow that, and we're just starting this process. And to the extent the policy unduly puts burden on the committee and on the board, we will address that. Ultimately, decisions on either termination or recapture of benefits is a board decision, but like I said, the actual process would be performed either by staff or a third party. And we're not also looking to apply this policy to all of our programs. It would not be feasible to apply it to tax-exempt bond, for example. And it would also not be feasible to apply it to SBA 504 loans. This policy would apply to, for instance, our Great Rate and Great Rebate programs, and also potentially our revolving loan fund. And, a ramification of noncompliance would be an interest rate adjustment for a period of time until compliance and things of that nature. So there's a lot of ironing out that still needs to happen. And so I think we would just ask the committee to look carefully at the policy and give it your comment. Feel free to mark it up by hand or track changes or by email or phone call, whatever. Just the start of the conversation on how to do this.
To Rachel's point about timeline, the county executive wants to make an announcement potentially in the month of August that he's asking our IDA and our IDC to adopt this policy in tandem with his own announcement that he's adopting a similar policy as it pertains to county procurement. And to Lydia's point earlier, we're going to be exploring an opportunity to talk to Erie County about how they audit businesses. This is not required of IDAs in the state of New York, but it's something that we're essentially asking businesses to certify that they're in compliance with the law. And then we're asking them to self-report if they do indeed turn up in an audit. Another point in regards to, how we would audit businesses, once a company turns up in an, like if they randomly are selected, they are not then subject to being selected for an additional 7 years. So they don't turn back up in an audit. So they're not unduly burdened multiple times in a short period of time. So I thought that was relevant to bring up.
So do we think, go ahead.
This is Pete going on.
My question is, during the regular due diligence process, would the, any adverse findings or pending claims or disclosure of pending claims, wouldn't that be disclosed at that point in time? I mean, it seems to me that this is sort of a self-attestation that these people are income. It's like checking to see if taxes are paid, see if there's any claims pending. Isn't that a part of the whole due diligence process?
Due diligence process that any business would be subject to? Well, because we're not currently asking applicants to certify that they're acting in accordance with equal pay laws.
No, but I guess the question is, if there were pending claims against them, wouldn't that show up when you're doing the due diligence, just like past due taxes would show up, or any other pending violations of any regulations or rules? I'm just asking the question.
Sure.
Peter, this is Lydia. I don't believe so. In terms of, you're talking about in an approval process, correct? So I think only, so if you're under investigation and there's a pending claim, I don't think that becomes public until it's, a finding has been made.
Okay.
I could be wrong with it, but that's my impression from what we've learned so far. So it's surely a question we can get answered in this process.
Yeah, I think the process for equal pay and how that is to be monitored or implemented is a whole new territory. So this is a step in the right direction, and we're not looking to, I guess, hold anyone to any legalities. But however, if we're giving great rates to folks, we're asking them to sign off because they adhere to equal pay in their company. Is that my understanding?
Yes.
Not that necessarily they have to prove it, but
right.
They're going to sign off that they understand in order to get this money, if equal pay comes up in terms of maybe a complaint from your employee or anything else like that, we have the right to come back and act with some sort of due diligence on that subject or on that matter.
Yes.
Okay.
And Rachel brought up the point earlier that in Erie County, county government has an equal employment office that monitors these activities, and that's something that's in the works right now with County Executive Fellows Administration. He's establishing a new division, hiring an equal employment officer, and it's our understanding that we would be able to rely on the administration to monitor, essentially to perform any audits. And we wouldn't adopt this policy formally if the board chooses to adopt it. It wouldn't go into effect until 2021 to give us time to understand how to audit businesses.
Once again, this is a process to go in a step of a good direction in terms of how we're going to view labor laws and pay equity in the future. So we're really not approving anything. Once again, what we're doing is just making sure that we have an understanding that this is the direction that the county executive is going, and that in all express and purposes, we need to line up our act and stay abreast of that, and use counsel to possibly react or draft to some things in the future, so we're just not shocked or surprised.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm good with it.
Yeah, it sounds good to me as well. But yeah, a few of the details need to be worked out. But yeah, thank you for bringing this to our attention. So nothing has to be done at this point. Just call the meeting to a close.
Correct.
Well, this is Pete. Let me ask you a question. If you look at the first paragraph of the pay equity policy, wouldn't we as the governance group want to adopt, let's say, that first paragraph, which just says that we would like to, adopt a policy, not being that specific, but I think that first paragraph says it all, in my mind anyways.
Well, the paragraph is a draft. Once again, there's a draft that is presented before us. And from my understanding today, all we're supposed to do is have a reaction to it. And I guess that's what we're having. But I'll say this right here is that even this policy that is before us could possibly change in terms of its legality. I think that this is just something for us to basically react to, if I'm understanding this. And once again, I don't know what the role of the governance is going to be, other than that we review this, and we're telling the board members today that they should review it. We should have some reaction to it, and if we react strongly to it, or if we want that first paragraph, like you're saying, Peter, we'll get this information back to Anna and Rachel, so it would be duly known.
And I think, Peter, when Zach makes his report to the full board, I think borrowing from the language of the paragraph to say, this is what the committee discussed, this is what what our hope is for a future policy. No need to adopt anything right now, but you're right, that first paragraph does summarize the direction in which we want to move ultimately.
Okay, thank you.
Is there a particular committee that, would it be the governance committee that would handle the audit? Anything that came up, or is there any ideas on that? Would involved with an audit committee?
Well, we could establish a new compliance committee or a new audit committee that would be responsible for this, or because, you know, we're planning to formally implement this in 2021, we're anticipating that the county executive's office is going to establish an equal employment division, and we could entrust that process with the administration. If we executed on a contract with the county executive's office, with Monroe County government, essentially, which is what Erie County did.
Yeah, I still don't think that it's a thing that we can basically answer on how we would set ourselves up to either monitor it or look at to see if it's in compliance or anything else like that, because this is still a draft.
Joining the meeting.
Once again, it sounds to me like we're reacting to a step in the right direction, and that we're trying to right something that has been a wrong for I guess many years, and all of this is just centering around I guess an issue of justice. So when it goes back to the board today, we'll ask them to have the same type of opportunity to review this like how we have done, and they can send all inquiries, questions, or suggestions to Anna and Rachel for Rachel for review.
So if we bring this back to governance committee again.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, is there any other business for the governance committee today?
Not at this time.
Okay, then we'll adjourn, and then we'll meet back in a couple minutes for the full board.
So Rachel, how do we record the line?
I'm gonna hang up.
I guess I'll stay on the line, guys.
Oh, I can start
You can
recording.
still record, okay, all right. So they can stay on.
Yeah, you can stay on. Feel free to
Okay.
stay on the line.